The Maselli Group presents seminars and workshops, advanced presentation skills for financial professionals, with Frank Maselli, financial industry expert and author of the best-selling book, Seminars, The Emotional Dynamic. Episode 10, Confidence.
Hi, I'm Frank Maselli. Welcome back to Episode 10, Confidence. There are two kinds of confidence you want to generate in the mind of the audience. And by the way, to say that right now the public lacks confidence in the financial services industry or finance in general is a massive understatement. Right now we have a crisis of confidence in the world of money that is mind-boggling. And part of our job, I think, at a workshop or a seminar is to restore some sense of confidence, to give them the feeling that we're not going to hell in a handbasket, that things are going to be okay. So let me paint this picture for you because I think it'll make some sense. There are two kinds of confidence you want to generate. The first is confidence in you. You want them to believe that you are a professional with skills and abilities who can solve their problems. That makes sense. It's totally logical. And I'm going to show you how to build that into your presentation. The second kind of confidence is you want them to be more self-confident. You want them to walk out of your workshop with a feeling of tremendous empowerment. You want them to look at each other in the car and go, wow, this is great. I really feel like we can take control of our family's financial future. Very important feeling to engender in the minds of your audience. So, how do you do it? Well, it starts with facts and statistics. Now, I told you earlier I'm a 10 in Quick Start and a 3 in Fact Finder. So facts have a very limited lifespan in my world. I don't do a lot of primary research. But you know what? Even I've learned after many, many years of doing this that you cannot build a presentation just on stories and anecdotes and, clever conversational quips. You need the girders, you need the structure, the underpinning of your presentation to be fact-based and to have some fundamental economic science that makes sense. Facts and statistics are the cornerstone or the base stone of a core presentation that will really engender that feeling of confidence. Stories and quotes come next. I use quotes sparingly, but I like to sprinkle them in there because it sort of attaches me to really smart people. Many people have said some incredibly smart things over the years, things that are very apt in today's society, and I like to attach those. I like to bring them forward and say, hey, look, this isn't the first time we've had problems like this. Look at what they said during the Great Depression. Look at what they said during the Roman era. And you can have a lot of fun with quotes. There's an unlimited source of quotes on the internet. I think using that ancient wisdom or older wisdom gives people a sense that we're not the only ones who've ever gone through these difficult times. Stories we're going to talk about in a second. Factoids we'll talk about, and mastering the Q&A. These are the core elements of building a confident presentation and of creating confidence in the mind of the audience. So let's get into this a little bit. The presentation building blocks. Here they are. You start with facts and statistics. You don't need a lot, but you do need some, and they need to be high quality, hand-selected, prime U.S. grade A facts, okay? Good stuff that makes sense and that supports your presentation and your thesis for the entire workshop. The good news is there's plenty of information out there. There is absolutely no shortage of facts and statistics in our business, okay? So you've got to parse through and figure out how to tell that story right at the base. This forms the ground level of your building. You go up a step and you've got stories, quotes, and opinions. Pretty simple. We'll talk about stories. Conclusions. What do we conclude from all this information, from all this opinion, from all this analysis? And then finally, actions. Actions are the ultimate goal of the workshop. We're going to get to that in a future episode. So, quick little trick on using statistics. Statistics by themselves are extremely dry things. They're wasted in many ways. People throw statistics all the time. You hear them on the news all the time. Let me teach you a technique called framing the statistic. Stay with me for 1 second, okay? Here we go. I've got a statistic. We'll put, some number in the middle. Folks, 83%, in fact, let me show it to you on the board here, okay? 98% of retirees will need government assistance or family help when they retire. Okay, I could say that. I could just throw the statistic out there. but it's meaningless. It doesn't carry enough impact. You need to create impact by framing the statistic. Framing simply means we're going to put a box around it, we're going to highlight it, we're going to demonstrate why it's important, and we're going to give it some significance and weight. So here's the alternative way. Sorry, I'm ping-ponging here, but watch this. Framing the statistic. 98% will need government help. Yawn. Throw it out a different way. Blend it with some information. Folks, I'm going to use a statistic. Before I tell you what the statistic is, let me tell you where it comes from. It comes from the Government Accounting Agency. It comes from the Bipartisan Congressional Commission on Budget. It comes from the Fed Reserve of Dallas, Texas. Where does it come from? Why is that significant? This body does all the research for this particular statistic. These people know more about this than anybody else. Who is creating this statistic? Where is it coming from? How did they come up with it? After 10 years of research, after 3 years of looking at the numbers, this is what they concluded. Again, I'm building the frame of that statistic. What does it show? What is the importance of this statistic? This statistic, when I show it to you, and I haven't shown it to you yet, that's the whole thing. I'm holding back, okay? This statistic will show you something. It'll show you something significant. It'll show you why we need to be more concerned with deflation than inflation, or something that you're building that thesis. The bottom part, why? Why is this important to you? It's important because going forward, you need to do certain things. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the statistic. Boom. 98% of retirees. And now they sit back and they go, wow, that's incredible. So, in simple terms, all I've done is given some structure, some weight, some power to the statistic or to the fact or whatever it is I'm using to build my presentation. When you do it this way, when you build with this structure, this frame, this strength, you don't need a lot of them. Okay, you don't need 100 facts and 100 statistics. You can go with a smaller group. And by the way, that's good, because the more you throw at them, the less they're going to understand. The public can only absorb a limited amount of financial detail and nuance. So if you crowd your presentation with too much stuff, it's not going to work. Framing the statistic, simple technique. Now, let's talk about stories. I could make the case for you that storytelling is one of the most important things you can learn to do in a workshop. Knowing what kind of stories to tell and learning how to tell a great story, because that's not an innate ability. That is a learned skill. Most people are not quite that good at storytelling. They go on too long, they cut too short, they don't emphasize the right points. So storytelling is important. You can't base the entire workshop on stories, but you've got to know how to tell a great story, and frankly, it starts with what kind of story to tell. There are many. There are more than are on this list, but these are the simple ones. Horror story, the basic premise is somebody did not take my advice and look at the tragedy that befell them, okay? Horror story, plenty of examples of horror stories. Funny story, self-explanatory, something humorous that happened to you. I try to tell some funny stories, and maybe I use a little bit too much humor in some of my presentations, but I like it. It works for me. Lost opportunity. Somebody missed something. There was something staring us in the face. We didn't see it. You know, they came to me. They said, we need to buy gold. This was 2 years ago. Gold was $750 an ounce, and I missed it. I totally ignored it. I wasn't paying attention. It's good to tell a few of those stories. Skeptical to satisfied client. I had a client, they came to me, they said, you know, this looks too good to be true, Frank. There's no way that this insurance policy can protect me the way you're describing and give me tax-free income. It's just not possible. And then what we showed them over time is that through the judicious use of insurance in their retirement plan, we can protect them. So, skeptical to satisfied. I didn't believe it. I showed people how it works, and now they do believe it. Docudrama. My all-time favorite story. What's a docudrama? A docudrama is where you're going to illustrate something by using history as an example. Let me show you my favorite docudrama. You may recognize some of these pictures. You probably know who this is. Everybody recognizes Lyndon Johnson. You may not know who that is. That's Jimmy Hoffa. I love to tell the Jimmy Hoffa, Lyndon Johnson story, and then I connect that to Ronald Reagan and Patco. Now, I'm not going to do the whole thing for you because it's long-winded and it doesn't make any sense taken out of context. But Jimmy Hoffa was the president of the Teamsters, president of the United States, big battle. I'm going to close down the country. He had to back down. The unions controlled 35% of the workforce when Jimmy Hoffa was president of the Teamsters. Flash forward, 1981, Ronald Reagan, brand new president of the Air Traffic Controllers Union, said, we're going on strike. Ronald Reagan said, no, you're not going on strike. If you go on strike, you're fired. Air traffic controllers, gosh, it takes 3 years to become an air traffic controller. They're not Teamsters. You can't fire the air traffic controllers. They went on strike. Ronald Reagan fired them. Ronald Reagan sent a message to the unions in America. Union representation in America has declined from 37% of the workforce to below 9% of the workforce. When a union goes to the bargaining table today, they have no power to argue for higher wages. Why am I telling you this story? Ronald Reagan beat inflation. During his tenure, inflation dropped from 17% a year, inflation, down to 2% a year. Okay, I get religious about this. This is a lot of fun for me to tell these stories. That's a powerful change. That was a sea change in our economy. That was the start of the greatest bull market in history. And we told it with history. We told it with exciting characters from history. Greatest president of all time. Whether you agree or disagree, immaterial. Okay. Telling stories. Decide what kind of story to tell. Keep it short. Shorter than what I just did there would be good. A clear meaning. Don't make people struggle to figure out what you're talking about. Have the moral right up front, okay? You don't want them to go, well, why did you tell me that story? Tell it clearly, make them understand it, and if they don't, say, here's what you need to understand about that story, and connect it to their world like we just did. Let me talk about factoids really quick. Factoids are throwaway facts. They're little mini facts that you can sprinkle throughout your presentation. And they're only there for one simple reason. They're there to show the audience that you are totally immersed in this subject. You are so conversant and knowledgeable about this subject that you eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. It just flies through your head. Sprinkle them in lightly. Don't use them a lot, but I just keep a whole bunch of articles. I keep a file drawer of interesting articles, and you've got to be well read. I mean, I think it's important to stay up on stuff. Keep a journal of factoids that you can use in your presentations. It's nice just to throw them in occasionally. Oh, you know, Indonesia, fourth largest economy in the world. Well, where'd that come from? Well, bing, I am so well versed in the global economy that this stuff just flies out of my head. It's a subliminal message point, but it is important. It shows that you're really connected. Building confidence, that's what we talked about. I think confidence is a great tool for you to use, and when they walk out of your presentation, not only are they going to say, my God, this guy's good, he really seems to know his stuff, but they're going to look at each other and say, wow, you know what? He gave us a feeling of control. He gave us the sense that we can now take our future in our own hands, which is, by the way, something that nobody feels today. And just connecting them to that sense of control, extraordinarily powerful.